Oh boy, was I looking forward to doing nothing today. But then I just happened to notice that it was a year since I did my previous Game Pass summary review. Where, I just go in and, it's the anniversary of since I've signed up with Game Pass, which at the time I thought, oh, I don't know. And since then, it's like, no, yeah, it's a great value. It's the best bargain I've ever taken advantage of, and boy, do I take advantage of it. So I took the time, wrote down what games I've played throughout the year, and here's just a little not too scripted or or thought out in advance summary of the games I've played. And towards the beginning of the year, I had an idea of like, why don't I, as I'm playing these games, push the record clip button so I can give you something to look at. Uh, However, at some point in the year, the Xbox is like, oh, we're changing the way that we're storing these clips, and it's like, well, I don't want to think about it too much. Where am I gonna store these things? So I'm sorry, too bad. It's just gonna be a still image. But you know what? This video uh, is mostly for Jason and anyone else who wants to watch it. But Jason indicated that he just likes having it on, hearing me speak about a topic he can relate to. So if nothing else, yay. Otherwise, like here's just a sample of like what one gamer does with access to Game Pass. Uh, Now the first thing I gotta have a caveat here: Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I purchased in November of last year and I hadn't really started it. I planned to finish the achievements challenge I was on. Then I was gonna get started, and then in January the game was added to Game Pass. So it's kind of like okay, I didn't really play it on. I didn't need to play it through Game Pass, but had I not bought it, it was there, and it is a worthwhile game to mention that I did put over 109 hours into it so far, which is not good. I do have I like the game, but I think this is the last Assassin's Creed I'm gonna play for a while, and I've played through most of them so far. I think there's some that aren't numbered that I couldn't tell you. The Syndicate, I'm not sure I've played. But yeah, this game it started off like I've liked the more recent ones, Odyssey or Origins. I like how different they've made the game. How it's more RPG in tone, and they're trying different things. Like each one of these three latest games has a different feel to them. This one, you surprisingly, it's in England. You leave your Nordic country, you go to England, you start off a settlement, and then you kind of go to the neighboring areas and try to find allies to your clan. And the first few areas, that felt like it was neat. It was like the land actually mattered. It felt like the geography actually made sense, and or at least added to the story that was being unfolded over time. But then I don't know, the game just kept going and going and going, and I at some point or in the recent months I beat it, and I was looking forward to like, okay, I want this to end. It just keeps going, but the ending was just, and I'm just like, I don't. So yeah, I don't know. Big game. It's got a lot to it. It's got fishing. It's got this Orlog game, which is dice rolling. It's got hunting, so much going on to it, but it's just like I think I could appreciate something smaller next time, please. And yeah, I technically bought it. I didn't need to play it through Game Pass, but it is there. Uh, Sea of Stars would have been the first game since my previous review that I got through Game Pass. Good game, good RPG. It's funny. I started these two games at the same time, and they both have this side quest mini game in them. This one is called Wheels, which actually plays a lot like the Orlog dice rolling game in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And there's fishing in this game too. But I have a feeling this game won't keep me going for over 100 hours. Um, a retro-inspired turn-based RPG, that is true. Tells a neat story. It's got decent turn-based combat, which I think I've shied away from in these recent years, but it is neat because when you go in, you see the bad guys have they telecast what attacks they're going to do, and if you do certain attacks against them first, you can counter their attacks. Um, yeah, and I'm looking for, and yeah, I don't know this game. However, does it didn't really grip me. I started playing again just last week, or yeah, no, this week, and realized, oh, it's been 4 months since I've played, so it is good. I can convince myself, oh, I got to play this game. I don't know why. I keep getting distracted by other things. So I haven't beaten it yet, and I hope to. Hopefully, I get around to it. Toem. Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay, I have a yeah, Toem, a photo adventure, pretty straightforward, cutesy game where sometimes I just want a game that I can play, get a little bit like I looked at the achievements and like, yeah, this if ever I'm in a bind, if I'm playing something and I haven't gotten an achievement, this I'll be able to pop in and just do it to get my daily fix. Um, or yeah, I guess I must have played this looking forward to the next game on the list. Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, the sequel to Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, which yeah, some people have said, do you have to play the first one? No, not really. Um, but it kind of leads into this as you understand why Turnip Boy is robbing goes from tax evasion to bank robbing. A completely different game. The first one was more of just like a story and narrative, um, where you're a guy who I think has a sword most of the game and very little items. But in this one, it's more of a yeah, roguelike because there is some progression. Where you just go in, there's a bank. Uh, you start off in the lobby, and as you have so much time before the cops arrive, and you start off in the same place every time, same time limit. But you go in and face off against the different bosses you can find throughout the different banks or the different areas of the bank, which you kind of unlock one at a time. Um, it was good. It was fine. It was I'd play as with roguelikes. I would play a run and then be like, okay, I'm satisfied for the day. I guess Return of Boy, I would maybe play a few more runs because the runs were limited. Um, I think with the boss battles though, and yeah, there's a lot of side quests because you'd meet a lot of wacky characters. You'd be like, oh, I live in this area of the bank, and then yeah, the whole game takes place in this one bank. Like it is I say bank, but like try to picture, a multi-level business operation with all kinds of wacky worlds and people living and working in them. Um, yeah, I think the first one had more charm, but this had elements of like the roguelike nature, which is pretty popular these days. I almost suddenly feel like I should slow down and be like, what am I doing with this video again? No, just saying, giving my thoughts on certain games. But now that I played this year, but like I strangely don't remember much about Turn Up Boy Robs a Bank. Um, but then, let me tell you about this next game. Brotato, um, which plays a lot like a Vampire Survivor. Well, let me just say, Brotato, um, I don't know why. I put thought into this, but like probably, well, among my top 5 games of the year, this Brotato game, which looks like nothing, but oh, it is so satisfying and fun. It plays a lot like Vampire Survivor, where like you start off as a guy, uh, who as you level up, you get more weapons, and you're suddenly firing multiple weapons. The game just fires off themselves, but with Vampire Survivors, I kind of found like each match is 30 minutes of this nonstop, save for when you pick up a treasure chest, which makes you feel powerful, and when you level up. But with Brotato, it's like no, you play through waves of enemies, and like there's a timer at the clock, which lasts from I want to say like 30 seconds to maybe 90 seconds, maybe only a minute, and then so it's like, hey, cool, survive this wave. And then if you get enough experience during the wave to level up, so at the end of the wave, you get any level up bonuses. which are just stat increases. If you found any treasure chests, you can choose whether to keep them or recycle them, and then you get to go into the shop. And yeah, as you're fighting off enemies, they're dropping these little green points, which count as both experience and currency for the shop. And once you're in the shop, you can buy different weapons. There's a maximum of 6 you can hold. If you buy multiples of the same, that's how you can combine them, so you can level them up to different tiers and different equipment. And most of the equipment along the way tends to have a plus side and a downside. Like they might say, like, oh, this weapon increases your melee damage, but it reduces your range damage. So along the way, as you're picking up and buying things, or choosing to keep certain equipment or buy certain equipment, and not buy. So when you're in the store, you only see like 4 items at a time, and then you can spend currency to refresh the slots, so you don't necessarily know what you're gonna get each time. However, if you I think if you buy certain weapons, and it kind of goes like, okay, though the same weapons of that genre or of that type, like elemental or range weapons or knives or harder stuff or medical stuff or ghost stuff, uh, tend to show up a little bit more in weapons. That is. Um, so yeah, I prefer Brotato over Vampire Survivors because it does feel a lot more strategic, and what you're doing, you're making choices as you purchase stuff that affects your build during that specific run. Whereas whenever I play Vampire Survivors, I just go, okay, by minute 10, hopefully I have the knife and the gauntlet, and I'm able to upgrade the knife to its, super duper form. That's my strategy every time in Vampire Survivors. The weapons, yes, they all fire differently, but the point is you just want to get a super duper one by level 10, and as long as you keep evolving your stuff and not making dumb decisions, you should be fine. Brotato has like 50. Well, no, don't go crazy. I think there's 30 different classes, and each one has like weapons, their benefits and trade-offs. There's just like a balanced guy who's good at all. There's like a ranged guy who goes like, oh, very good at range weapons, not good at melee, and like and then some of them are rule breaking things. Like there's one class who, um, I think, or there's one that like uh takes damage over time constantly, but anytime that you gain health, then your enemies are randomly damaged. So therefore, it's like, okay, you want to invest in weapons and equipment which gives you healing over time, or uh, does steals health whenever you attack, stuff like that. Or there's some builds where, okay, their dodge stat is nerfed, but their armor is upgraded. So you need to go into it thinking like, well, typically I'd go a pro dodge build, but that wouldn't work in this case. Or yeah, just certain stuff. Like each class has, when you get into the more advanced ones, which you need to unlock by winning the earlier classes or doing specific things like leveling up a certain stat in a given run to a certain threshold. Yeah. So even though I'm talking, and saying like, oh, there's so much depth to this game, like I've invited people, or I've had people over, and I just said, you try this game. And a few of them, like, I'm just saying trying. I'm not saying, hey, play this for the rest of the evening, but they were hooked. It's just straightforward. You get in, it's obvious, like, okay, kill enemies as they come, pick up the currency and experience, and yeah, they just wouldn't want to. They couldn't put the controller down. It's very captivating, and has been the game I'm recommending. And even if it wasn't on Game Pass, I think it's like $6. And then by the end of the year, they ended up having some free update, which included co-op and a paid DLC. And I'm like, yeah, sure, give me more. Brotato might very well be among my games of the year. Let's see, Hard Space Shipbreaker it was a good, very entertaining game. I I like how I say past tense. It was removed, like the game still exists, but I'm done. um, and it was removed from the Game Pass service. It's a game that really scratches the Power Wash Simulator itch, where it's just like you play a game where you essentially have a job, but in this game, instead of washing dirty, like ridiculously filthy houses, you the game takes place in like a future world where there's this corporation which, I mean, it's got a message about indentured servitude and it's anti-capitalism, uh, which is neat. It gives the thing context, which is nice. But essentially, so you work for this company where I guess they take discarded spaceships, old derelict spaceships that are inoperable now, and so the level starts. You're in this big, wide open space in orbit of some planet or like out in space, really. Um, so you're essentially flying through. So you got jetpacks and grapples in order to help you move around. And so you start off like the level is essentially you have a spaceship, uh, and it's your job to disassemble it and sort the pieces into, well, are they recyclable materials? Are they or essentially? I get you start off and there's two pits. Like one is where you put all your metals, and one is where you put like your glass and and if you open up once you get into the spaceship and find like, oh, well, there's still seats and computers and equipment that you can salvage, that goes into a third pit beneath the ship. So you're constantly strategically, like, you have a laser, um, which works in multiple ways. Either you can do like a straight line slice, which you can change the angle for, or you can just like focus it as a beam and shoot and drag it along. Being careful not to get these lasers to cut any wires or gas tanks or nuclear reactors, or else that could just blow up the entire ship. You don't want that. And yeah, you're just going along, taking a ship and methodically slicing it up into its different pieces, and then you have like I don't want to say like a grapple, like it shoots a thing, but like a thing that, like a vacuum, let's say, that will take a material and then you can just re-aim it and go, bah, go that way, and then it'll just fly through space towards either pit A or pit B, and if you the more material you're able to correctly salvage into the correct pits, the more money that you accomplish, which you use to pay off your debts, because when you join the company, they give you or they or I don't think they necessarily clone you right away, but like they go, okay, well, we gotta rent out all this expensive tools you're using, and we're giving you a home to live in. So like you start off the game with like, I don't know, like billions or trillions of dollars in debt, and each ship has like a maximum. No, you could get 36 million there of material is on this ship. So the better you do, it's kind of like, well, the more money you can get out of the ship without wrecking, having to scrap too much of it. I'm describing a job. It's surprisingly fun. Hard space shipbreaker. But if this sounds like, whereas Power Wash Survivor, I sometimes described it as like, well, it's a game which on paper shouldn't be entertaining, but it is. This also kind of falls under that, where it's just like, well, yeah, you're just cutting up spaceships and dividing the parts and trying to get the job done within a certain time. Because yeah, each shift that you work, it's like you have, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour, um, and to do as much as you can, and you got to make sure to return, or just do as much as you can before your shift is over. Um, Plus, there's also complications of like you have to make sure to go to this terminal and buy oxygen and more tethers. The tethers you can use to like attach a ship part to a pit, and then it'll just like contract. Um, um, it works. It works. It's well thought out. It's very exciting, but it's also very like you might want to turn on a podcast before you commit to this. The next game is not as complex at all. It's Bluey the video game, which it was there, and Bluey is freaking hilarious. I think I started. I don't know why I started watching Bluey. People kept saying like, "No, it's legit. It's actually pretty good," and it is. Bluey the video game, however, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, just because I don't see them that often in the marketplace. Like, do they still make video games for kids? Like, is that anything that anyone is still focused on? Like, no, we should make this. This should be our section of the market, is making quality entertainment, video game entertainment for kids. Or do parents kind of rely on, well, here's Nintendo, here's Mario, um, and yeah, sure enough, this is a game for kids where if it wasn't easy to complete, I probably just wouldn't have played it. um, and yeah, just neat to see what options are available for children these days. Uh, let's just get out of there. This I'm pretty. Was this a day one launch or available in Game Pass on day one? No. This so because through Game Pass you do have the privileges of I can't remember what EA Access is called. Um, well, Microsoft has a deal with EA where EA has a subscription program of their own, and through Game Pass you get some perks of EA. So this was a game. Actually, it turned out I looked into this and it was added to Game Pass 1 year after its release. And as soon as it was on Game Pass, I'm like, "Yep, I'm in." I really like the prequel to this game. This one I liked it. They did try to make it seem a little more open world in some sections, where the previous game kind of felt more Metroidvania, and actually got me kind of interested in the idea of Souls games, which I'll touch a little bit more 2 games from now, where it's like as you're going to places and going like, okay, here's the plot tells me to go here on this planet where I'm investigating clues to solve a thing. Um, and you go to a level. Okay, in order to advance, okay, here's my save point. I'm safe. Go over here, fight bad guys. Oh, good. And the next checkpoint, and I can rest. But if I rest and regain all my health, then all the enemies respawn. So yes, there's a nice amount of danger and relief that as you advance and get hit certain points in the plot and maps, you feel the relief of, oh good, another rest point. Um, and it actually feels like as you're trudging along, you are reaching or earning the satisfaction of progress. And then yeah, if you don't make it all the way and if you die, then all the bad guys respawn. And if if you get to the place where you died, and you get all your resources back, so that's good, all in well. This had a few things to go and collect, and at first I was thinking like, oh okay, but you don't have to collect them all. But sure enough, by the time I got to the end, it's like, oh no, all the achievements do require me to go back and get all the collectibles I missed. Most of them, I think maybe like 90% of the things. There were some things there that were just bonus and extra. And yeah, I think a satisfying challenge. Nito's story and like takes place in Star Wars, so you see some Star Wars stuff. That doesn't necessarily. Well, it touches on like you can like I think I would have to guess when this takes place, like before episode 4. But like whether or not this person is canon to the main Star Wars story, I don't think so. But at the same time, I can kind of see him, or the things that you do, the story he's on, probably ties in with like I might watch something one day and be like, oh yeah, this guy who's Cal. I was gonna say, I forgot entirely. He was working towards the thing, which is the foundation for this thing you're mentioning now in Star Wars. Probably, I don't know. Um, and yeah, pretty game, feeling of accomplishment, good game. I recommend. This and the previous one, I do enjoy quite a bit, and I imagine the other one is still also on Game Pass. Here is a game. So prior to game, so as I mentioned in last year's video, they phased out the Games with Gold program, which was a thing where prior to Game Pass, if you were subscribed to, uh, well, they called it Gold was the subscription service. Like I think, uh, well, where if you sign up for Xbox Live, you have a gold account, and one of the perks was you got 2, 3, maybe 5, I don't remember anymore, free games, which it started on 360 and then went on to Xbox One, and like even could even benefit from prior to having an Xbox One. Um, the kicker big free for as long as you have an Xbox account. Now that Games with Gold is gone, if you're still subscribed to Game Pass or any of the, I assume any of the other Xbox tiers, you still have access to your Games with Gold um, content that you unlocked by having being subscribed to the service during the month that the games were added for free. What? The first most game for the Xbox One, or the game with gold, which I was looking, or when the Xbox One came out, like I was still playing on the Xbox 360, and I didn't see a need to upgrade to the console for a year or two or three or even more. But Games with Gold was giving out games for free on Xbox One. So I claimed this game and I've been looking forward to playing it ever since. So at least 10 years have passed, probably. Sunset Overdrive, which, yeah, some people have over the years said, like, oh, yeah, Sunset Overdrive, that's a game you got to play. And sure enough, I played it this year. It is a nice open world, complete missions, collectathon, which those are games I enjoy. Even though some people are like, oh, they're so tedious, too big, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I kind of dig it. And Sunset Overdrive's thing, well, two things. One, there's a lot of like grinding across rails and bouncing along, and those are involved in the combat, and that's how you get around the city. It's fun traversal. That's what you need to have a really successful, I think, open world game. Which another thing about Assassin's Creed doesn't is fun traversal. That's perhaps why Spider-Man's a great series or a good IP to use for open world games. Swinging around in that. Here you got grinding and dashing in midair. Crackdown also was an example of fun traversal. Um, and then other games where it's just like you have cars. It's like, well, could you at least have boost cars? Give me a helicopter. But sometimes in a GTA that doesn't really fit in. And perhaps that's criticism for GTA games. Although 6 is coming out, so I hope my stock investment pays off there. Yeah. Was Sunset Overdrive Naughty Dogs? I want to say it was. Because I know Naughty Dogs has, with Ratchet and Clank, very good variety in guns. Sunset Overdrive. Naughty Dog? And yeah, this game too also has. Oh, Insomnia. What? Yeah, Insomnia. I don't know. Good variety of guns, where it certainly feels like, okay, now I'm playing with this gun, which does one thing. Oh, but certain enemies are here in my face. So it makes sense to switch to a different gun that does something entirely different. Um, Variety and strategy is what I'm getting at. These, and where you're doing awesome action on the fly. It's a very satisfying experience. I at some point even went ahead and bought Gold Edition, which includes DLC. One kicker is a lot of achievements were tied to this multiplayer aspect. And I was surprised to find I went to True Achievements and they have like, oh, if you need help boosting for achievements, here's a platform where you can be like, I'm looking for players. And sure enough, there were people to this day who are still like, here's a session I want to play. Unfortunately, I never got onto any of those. I could have probably made my own and seen if that had any luck. But these sessions were always filling up before I could get to them, or they were just at times where I was at work, and that's too bad. West Coast time zone. What are you gonna do? People playing while I'm at work. So if anyone else is like, oh, Sunset Overdrive on the Xbox platform, sure, Kerry, I would love to play with you. Then let me know. But yeah, this was a Games with Gold game, but it is also available on Game Pass. Now, usually I mention, okay, at this point, two of the games I played in December. These are the games so far that I started playing on Game Pass. Three of them were January, two in February, one April. This was May 31st I started playing. So 5/12ths of the way through the year. No, that looks like not a lot, but a fair amount of games. But Assassin's Creed, 100 hours. Brotato, I put in 50 throughout the year. So like a lot of good. Yeah, so far I'm just listing games that I started playing this year. So there may have been some carryover from games I may have started November, December. Um, in fact, without getting too much, because here's my Game Pass summary, but I will have another video showing all the games I purchased throughout the year. By this point, oh yeah, so Balatro came out in March, and Baldur's Gate 3 I bought in April. Sorry, Balatro, I should say I bought it in March. It may have come out sooner than that. So yeah, those are two big games that may explain why I didn't start as many at this point. Okay, but that's till the end of March. All the games I started playing this year from that are Game Pass games, which is like, oh wow, games you're playing. What variety? What compelling games you've listed so far? Some of them. But Kerry, on Game Pass, don't you run the risk of you're playing a game and then, oh no, it falls from Game Pass. Oh, it's not free anymore. Bet that sucks. So I think I should mention all the games that were removed during Game Pass during the year. So yeah, this is a short list of games. Well, you're giving it away, Kerry. But these are the list of games that left Game Pass and I wasn't done playing them. Oh, what a rip. So Hard Space Shipbreaker, I mentioned that earlier. The game where it's a job where you tear a spaceship apart. I started that game mid-February, and at the start of March, they said, "Oh, this is a game which is leaving the service," and so I had half a month to play or to finish it, and I did. And that was a game I didn't think I could because it's a lot of numbers. It's like, okay, each shift, hopefully you can make as much as you can, and here's this big debt. And I knew as long as the amount I was making was greater than the interest being charged, I was getting somewhere. And I wasn't sure if I was able to do it, but I did. I sat down and there were some games where it's like, okay, cool. Video game time, Hardship Space Breaker. Nope, Hard Space Shipbreaker. And I managed to 100% it, and it was very satisfying. Likewise, Toem, which I meant or described, or I guess I didn't even explain what Toem was. It was a game where you go, you leave your mom's house and you go on an adventure of taking pictures of stuff. And you meet people and you do side quests of like, oh, I saw a big scary fish. No one will believe me. So you got to go find the big scary fish and take a picture of it. And, just take a picture of all the animals you see. It's a very cozy, very charming, very cute game. I started playing in Jan, and you know what? Sometimes, I've got this habit, if you will say, this hobby, is a more positive way of saying it, where I try to go at least one achievement a day. So sometimes I start games where it's just like, yeah, it says it's a short game, but it's got like 30 achievements to them. So, it should be easy to guarantee I get an achievement just by playing this game for 15 minutes a day. So I started playing in January. I started playing here and there. In mid-July, the game was removed from the service. So once I got the news, I'm just like, okay, well, and I managed to beat the rest of whatever I didn't. I beat the rest of the game in one day. It wasn't a very long game. Uh, Headbangers Rhythm Royale, which I haven't gotten to describing yet, was also removed from the service, but within the time frame that was available, I was able to 100% it. And there's this one game, Persona 5 Tactica. I managed to get past the tutorial, but not far enough to get any achievements apparently. And then I started playing other games, and then I was told, oh, they're removing this game from the service. So it's like, well, I didn't get that far anyway, so I don't need to finish. Don't even bother. I'm sure that was like a 50, 60, 100-hour game. And so I came that close to playing a Persona game. That would have been the first, and it's not even the main ones. It was like a tactics game, because I like tactics games. At least I think I do, but I rarely actually sit down and finish them. So that was it. So as far as like, and yeah, they do remove game like 5 or 6 games every month, but they're constantly adding games. And yeah, I do read the articles and I go like, oh, is there anything being removed? And maybe there were some that I did enjoy in the past, but seemingly nothing that made me go, oh no, I gotta go out and buy that game now. Yeah, so only 4, and even then, 2 of them so I went ahead and 3 of them I rushed to finish them, and I don't know. It's in the cases of Hard Space and Headbangers, it's kind of like, well, there's this neat when games are being removed, it adds a neat thrill or challenge of now you have to beat this game within a certain deadline. If anything, it gives me the motivation to finish the game. So there's, in a weird way, a kind of neat value to games being removed from the service. It's kind of like if I'm on Netflix and I go like, oh, I'll scroll through everything. What do I want to watch? I don't know. But it's like, okay, here's a movie where, yeah, okay, I might watch it. Oh, it's being removed in a week. Boom, there, I'll watch it. Same thing here, or similar thing here. Back to the main topic at hand. Okay, so in June, I started playing. I think this is the closest thing. Well, if not Star Wars, works. I think it's easier to brand it as a Metroidvania. Here's the closest thing I've played to or put, a worthwhile amount that it counts as a Souls like, I'd say, and that's Another Crab's Treasure. Which, yeah, I was expecting like, oh, okay, maybe it's got the mechanics of a Souls like people are saying, but look at it, you're a crab. Look how colorful and bright it is. This should be cake. Crab cake? What? But then, yeah, I got to like the first boss, and it was just like, what is? I don't. Huh? What is this? Why? Oh, I'm failing and failing and failing, but I want to keep trying. Which I guess kind of reminds me of Cuphead, which I really did enjoy that too. I guess because I was looking at this of like, dude, it's a crab game. Look, you're a crab. This game can't be that serious or hard. Perhaps I was given more incentive to be like, there's no way this game can beat me. I beat this game. You gotta see. So yeah, ended up beating that boss and being like, yeah, satisfaction. Played some more. It was challenging and dangerous, and you got to be careful. And once again, it's similar to the Star Wars game. It's like, oh, thank God for these rest points. I'm progressing. I feel so alive. But then the second boss, similar thing. I was just like, this game, I'm good at video games, aren't I? I really had to like strategize and watch videos of people be like, what are you doing? I don't get it. Only to realize like, oh, here's this mechanic which on paper sounds risky, but sure, I'll try it and get good. Get good at, actually blocking. So as you play throughout the game, like this guy's wearing a tin can for a shell. Your shell, and you look at the thing. It's also like a soda can, a battery, the top of a bottle cap. And these are all different shells that your crab can get, and then each one of these has different mechanics. They're like different values of defense. But the more defense inhibits your speed sometimes, and some of them have different ability. Like if you get the soda can, you do a fizzy attack if you press your button. Um, Whereas if you have like a shell, it can sometimes break, but then recover once. All these different shells have different values and abilities to them. But yeah, the key point here was defense. So like you can if a bad guy takes a swing at you, you can block. But if you block too many times, your shell will shatter. And then if you're completely shellless, if you get hit, there's nothing block. You take full damage, and which is scary. So first it's like, well, okay, rather than block and then lose my shield, why don't I dodge, dodge, dodge? But then if you dodge, 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 if you're doing nothing but evading, you're not doing any damage. So throughout the game there were several points where it's just like this is my strategy, that's not working. You gotta come up with something new, which at first sounded risky and you were avoiding it, but it's like that's what you gotta do. It's what you gotta do. And then you get better at doing that. And at some point I discovered the strategy which I'd been avoiding the whole time, and it got me through the next 20 to 30% of the game until I reached you hit a wall again. It's just like, I don't know, man. Countering, and then you learn countering, and yeah, that gets you through the game. So once again, very hard, but it was a hard that I was convinced if I calmed down, if I trained, if I tried, if I could get through and persevere, and it was all the more satisfying every time I did that. Do I want to play more Souls likes? Probably not. No, I don't think I do. Um, Although another game that was added to Game Pass, I want to say this year, but I was looking at my stats. Sometimes I was being like, I played this game this year, right? And like, no, you thought you did, but that was 2 years ago or last year. I have no concept of time, I guess. Where was it going with that? Oh yeah, so the point is, I think this game was added this year called Lies of P, which sounds like it's another Souls like, but in a world where that's based on the story of Pinocchio. So once again, only darker, and it's about robots, I guess, instead of dolls that come to life. Um, that's intriguing. It's not of the Elden Ring brand or Souls, Dark Souls. So it's like maybe it'll be easier. I don't know. I don't know. But I can kind of see, like, if I enjoyed this, maybe I could dip my toe into other ones that are have if someone can convince me. It's like, oh no, here's they'll ease you into the genre. Um, but yeah, sometimes I get some people are like, oh, every game should have an easy mode because people shouldn't be frustrated when they have fun. But no, I'm of the there's a certain if a game can convince me that it's possible to win or that I could win if I try, I don't know. Sometimes frustration can be satisfying if you just don't get. I guess it also helps if like you don't lose too much. Like thankfully in every battle, like there was the checkpoint right before each boss, so it's just like okay, try, fail. You're right there. It's not like go through an entire level, boss, fail, have to repeat the entire level. It's like it's okay if I lose if I don't lose too much time. That can be frustrating. Another game I started playing was Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2, which yes, I did buy Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. It was when I probably paid $10. I could look it up. I have a spreadsheet right here, and I was dismayed to find out that I waited so long because I waited for it to come down in price, right? But by the time I bought it, no one was playing online anymore, so I didn't get much value out of it. But this is like, oh no, it's on Game Pass, so there's gonna be people available to play. Um, but it turns out I didn't really have to for the achievements. You can just play locally. That's fine against bots. So yeah, the Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 had this neat like arcade mode, but also had like this story mode, which interestingly tied into a rogue like thing where it's like, okay, here you play until you hit a boss, and then as part of the story, I think the guy that's well, there was this demon boss who had the ability to rewind time. You're on this thing where like, oh, the Nickelodeon multiverse, I suppose. They didn't say it, they didn't hammer that over your head. But like the multiverse is being shattered. But thankfully you've got this ally who's able to reverse time. So it's like, okay, try to get through all the worlds and beat the final boss. But oh, he beat you. Thankfully, rewind time and start over. But you get this, currency you can use to buy upgrades. It was pretty satisfying. Um, Oddly enough, well, thing is though, the combat wasn't that. I don't know. It plays a lot like Smash Bros. And it's surprising that like, well, Melee came out how many years ago? I want to guess 20, maybe a little less than that. It's just funny that well, I said aloud to someone, Clinton, I said like, well, why? It's funny that they can't just look at this model that of a game that existed 20 years ago and like copy it in a satisfying, like a good enough way, or even improve upon it. But it's just like, well, and he reminded me like, well, that was Nintendo. Not every game studio has Nintendo money that can take the time to make sure everything's balanced. So essentially, yeah, I mained as Garfield, played through, despite the Ninja Turtles being there. I don't think all of them were. I think there's Raphael in this game. The previous one may have had Michelangelo and Leonardo. This one has Raph and Donatello, I think. And there was DLC with Rocksteady, and it's just like, no, I don't need to. So yeah, I mained as Garfield, and more often than not, I could excel against the CPU just by smashing to the side. So it's neat. It's a Smash Bros for kids of this timeline that is available now. Like I'm not expecting people to go out and be able to find Smash Bros Melee and play it. Ultimate's available too. You should play Ultimate. But if you don't have a Switch, then yeah, if you've got consoles that can play this game, it'll have to do. Soccer Story sucks. That is a game I ended up 100%ing it, but man, like it's a soccer game, but they really should have taken more time to like make sure the soccer works. Because yeah, it's kind of like, oh, it's a soccer RPG, and there's a world you explore, kind of in a top-down way, like picture Legend of Zelda. Like, let's say, why don't I remember A Link to the Past name? Link to the Past. Where you explore one world at a time to challenge people to these soccer tournaments. Although you did have the option, by the way, to turn it so every reference to soccer was football. That was a neat touch. You go to a world where there was this great calamity involving a soccer tournament. The world was destroyed or like separated, and so they're like, no, soccer is now outlawed. And it was your dad was at that game where the calamity occurred. But you just go to these different worlds and try to convince people to like, hey, let's go play soccer one more time. We'll have fun. You'll see. In order to unlock the Great Mystery Cup, owned by Soccer Co., which is an evil corporation. So you go around the world, and in between these soccer tournaments, you do soccer like go find all these targets you can kick a soccer ball at, and until you level up your soccer kicking ability to 3, you can't hit most of the targets. So there's that, but then when you actually get to like the soccer part of the soccer story, like the very first place you go to is like, oh, okay, the first tournament is against these. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. Toddlers. Here's this toddler soccer team. They'll fight. They'll play soccer against you first. And it's just like, okay, well, because of this RPG element, your players are not, like your soccer stats, kicking, passing, shooting, blocking, um, are low. So it's like, cool. I would legit like, play a game. I get to the enemy's goal, 20 shots, they're all blocked. And if the team of toddlers manage to get the ball to my goal, they'd get it in every time. And it's just like, this is they they didn't focus on soccer. They didn't focus on the soccer. Bad game. A short hike is a good game. I in fact did play it once before. It was in an itch.io bundle for charity, and I enjoyed it. And yeah, I saw one day that this was a game or I knew it was on Game Pass, but then I saw the notification, oh, it's being removed from Game Pass. So I just went ahead, downloaded it, and 100%ed it. I think when I played it originally, I just got to the end and was like, satisfying. This one I managed to get all the achievements in within 4 hours, and had a heck of had a good time, a good day. Um, I still recommend it to people who haven't played it, but now I'm just gonna see how much. I'm tempted to say, like, well, how much does it cost? 10.29. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't pay that. I would, but to each their own. How much video games and are worth. The price value of time to money. Um, to me at this point, in my next video I'll explain how much I pay per game. It's ridiculously low. Um, so it's hard for me to justify. Oh, this is worth $10. Most games I buy aren't, uh, or aren't priced that much. Where was I? Oh yeah, this simple. Do 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 do. Oh yeah, I guess I should mention. So the first 9 games I mentioned lasted me all until like those are the 9 games I started up until the end of March. Seemingly in July I had a let's start games spree, and I ended up starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games within the span of July. Um, I can look this up, but my guess is by then I was probably like, okay, the potato's done. Balatro, I'm probably hitting a point where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty satisfied. Maybe I can accomplish 1 or 2 more things. And Boulder's Gate, maybe I was just like, well, no, I give up. I'll get to that. Okay. Yeah, short hike, Headbangers Rhythm Royale, which I started playing in July and then was removed in October. I'll mention that again. This game was a surprise. Well, it looked like fun. It looked like a big party game. I expected that this was going to be, I guess, last year's, like a contender for a game of the. Well, no, I guess if I started it this year, it could have been last year. I thought this was going to be a contender for a game of the PAX Kerry. But then it turned out that, like, no, there's no local play. Where, okay, look at all these pigeons, Rhythm Royale. I expected it was going to be just like a series of mini games and party games where you can all play together and do things, play games to rhythm. And it is. I suppose if I repeat that sentence, I'll be like, no, it's completely true. But it's not local multiplayer. It plays more like a Fall Guys, where like you boot it up, you join an instance of like you get matched with, let's say, 30 people, and then you play these games, and if so many people are eliminated, until there's one winner, and that's what it is. So I was very surprised to learn, and maybe it's just a failing on my part. I assumed there'd be like this is a multiplayer game, but it's not. Um, so yeah, but otherwise, I did start it, and despite that disappointment, yeah, I played some games, and there were some very fun, captivating. Uh, but yeah, I guess by the time I played it, um, yeah, I'd start up a game, and more often than not, there were no human players, and I was playing against bots. But yeah, it was still, and yeah, all the achievements were tied to in specific mini games do meet a specific quality threshold, and there were maybe like 120 of these different challenges, and yeah, so I started in July. I played it here and there. It'd be a game, be like, I don't know what to play right now. This game's kind of fun. I'll play one or two tournaments, which is, like if picture Fall Guys, a tournament is how long you play before you're eliminated, or maybe you win, in which I was doing most of the time against bots. That's not a brag. Water, stay hydrated. Um, Yeah. And then once I heard, okay, well, it's being removed from the service, um, yeah, I started seeing how many of these challenges I could beat. Um, some of them I didn't think I was going to be able to. But then it was so, I don't know, the way they phrase the things, it would be like, oh, beat this game, and you have to perfect 3 rounds in a row. Only to find out and be like, I'm trying, oh, I'm failing. But I'm getting close. I'm getting better. But then it turned out that like, oh, perfect didn't mean what I thought it did. It'd be like, okay, so the game would take place on the spinning record, right? And then the different tracks would be like, okay, when it hits this point in the record, press this button. It turned out perfect didn't mean hit all the buttons and don't miss any. It was just don't press any buttons when you shouldn't. And then because it's a record, like if you miss any, then when the record, on its second lap, you have a second chance to hit that button prompt again. Stuff like that, where it's just like, okay, read the challenge. You think it's one thing, oh, but it's actually easier than that. And then it did turn out some of the challenges I had to play on PC just because of the lag between, when you see the thing on screen and when you have to actually push the button. I don't know. I'm not super great at timing. I feel like I've got a delay here. I don't know what it is, but on PC with headphones on, which the game does recommend you should play with headphones. Um, some of them were only possible with that setting. Um, yeah, so it was a fun game, and I guess it was a little annoying that it was removed, but then it did push me to play the game a lot more frequency, and therefore get better faster and beat it. But it did. It was all I was doing for a given week, which then, oh boy, some of the music and tunes did get stuck in my head. Um, whew, wow. So previously I did mention games with gold. So technically, games like Grow Up, like it's a game that is not part of Game Pass, but through Game Pass, which is free, and free for me, and I'll get to that later. When I reiterate how great of a value this subscription is. Grow Up was a game that was a Games with Gold game, which I did claim at some point years ago, and I still have access to because of Game Pass. Game by Ubisoft. Kind of, yeah, open world. The whole thing takes place on a planet where what you're trying to do is keep jumping and climbing things until you're able to reach the moon and find various spaceship parts, which I don't know. It got me thinking. There's a lot of well, I don't know about a lot of games. Several games where the challenge. I have no idea how long I've been talking. Oh, literally an hour and like 10 seconds. Maybe that you've been talking for an hour. How long have you been talking? Um, there's a lot of games that involve the challenge of climbing, even Donkey Kong. How high can you get? Huh. It got me thinking. There's not a lot of games where like that involve descending carefully. Indie developers get in on that. That's an idea. I played this game once called Downwell, which was on Game Pass before PC and it was removed. That was satisfying. And yeah, I guess there's a lot of games that involve digging, kinda, but sometimes those feel cramped. I don't know. I think the idea of a game where you descend carefully might have some merit, but this is the opposite. Grow up. I don't know. It was a good game, and there is a sequel. I don't remember what it's called. Um, A Way Out is a co-op game, which I think you can play online. But I had Clinton over, and we played it. Did we beat it in one sitting? Maybe two. But I feel like we made a day of it. Actually, I should be able to say. Oh yeah, yeah. So I managed to 100% it, which involved playing after Clinton left in 6.5 hours. So yeah, we probably. Oops. No, it's good. Um, yeah, we made a day of it. He came over, even stopped for lunch. Um, to play a co-op game. We chose A Way Out. And we enjoyed ourselves because yeah, the point you're about two prisoners who want to escape prison, with two kind of different categories, or sorry, not categories. What do you call it? Personalities. So we kind of embedded. Uh, well, We were the two different characters. Is the point? It was fun. It was fun, but Clinton and I agree that the ending was dumb. That's all we'll say. And it ruined the game. Ruined the game. We should have played It Takes Two, which I still haven't. So I can't necessarily say that's legit. Um, but otherwise, yeah, 100% of it in 6.5 hours. But yeah, we made a day of it. You need a co-op partner for maximum fun. And disappointing ending. I just want to say that again. Surprisingly disappointing. And I think maybe it's just a failure on my part. I'm sure if anyone hearing will be like, "No, Kerry, you are wrong. This is a great game." But I don't know. I started Hollow Knight, and it's a game I've been meaning to try for a very long time. Jade recommended it, and or maybe I'm thinking of another game, which is also on Game Pass. Which blanks. Pretty sure. Um, and yeah, no, I don't know. I stopped playing. Um, oh, I only played for an hour and 45 minutes. Ooh, got 15 achievements or 15 gamer score, I should say. So that's only like one or two achievements. Um, and I don't know. There was something in it that made me not want to go back, or other things caught my attention. It looks like the very next day I started playing. I'm just quick. I don't know. I'm probably wrong. This game is probably great. Uh, yeah. But a game I started the next day, Max the Curse of Brotherhood, which actually I think I wrote down here. Was a Games with Gold game, but is available on Game Pass. Sometime Maybe Hollow Knight was hard, but I like hard. I did mention with another kind of I like a satisfying difficulty. Max Security Brotherhood. Sometimes I start a game where it's just like, you know what, I want. Sometimes I want to just play a game where I know I'll succeed. There are some puzzles where you scratch your head a little bit, but nah, they're pretty solvable. I think there was one at some point where it's just like I don't know what I'm supposed to do because like it is a platformer and you got this magical crayon which gets more abilities over time. And at some point, like you can draw branches and they become like the things you're supposed to platform off of. But like if you draw a platform and you don't like it, you can slice it and then the branch will drop and you can draw another one. But or sometimes like you're supposed to slice it so the branch just drops, so you can like move it somewhere and reuse it. So I think one puzzle I got stuck on was like I was supposed to draw a branch in the shape of a circle and like draw another branch under it in the shape of like a ramp, so that or maybe a downward ramp, and then cut the top branch so the circle then rolls down and I don't know. Um, but yeah, no, this fits under the category too of like game where if I need an achievement that day, I'll pop it up and play 30 minutes and probably unlock the next achievements. Um, but a little fun and satisfying for now. Okay, yeah. So as I'm saying, oh yeah, and that takes me to the end of July in terms of games I started playing this year. Actually, this next one it feels like no, never mind, never mind. So I will pause in order to talk about the topic of. But you know what? It's not just about games that I started playing. Game Pass also has a bunch of games. Well, I still play games that I may have started in previous years and last year or sorry. Here's just a list of games I resumed playing in 2024, but I started earlier, which were, and I think all are, yes, on Game Pass. But yeah, I did mention them. I must have mentioned them in previous years. Dead Space Ignition, which I didn't like, and I haven't played any I haven't played any other Dead Space games. This is a puzzle game, which I started, didn't finish, and at some point this year, I was just like, just go back and finish it, and I did. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, same thing. Sub Curtis, whose opinion I revere, really speaks highly of this game. I didn't like it, but once again, I was just like, and I think maybe there was an achievement challenge where it's just like, oh, the achievements of this game count. Okay, I'll go back and beat this game. I may have done so on easy difficulty. Tunic, great game. I think I was surprised to find like I went back to this game. I started it once and was amazed, but then just didn't continue. I fell in love with the mechanic of as you're traveling along, one of the things you find on your travels are like pages of an instruction booklet, pages of the instruction booklet to this game. That's so charming and brilliant. But I at some point I'm just like, you know what? I never finished this game. What's wrong with me? So I went ahead and did, and it didn't take too long. But I think I was surprised to find that like, oh yeah, when I started playing this game, oh I guess I didn't record how long it took to beat because it wasn't a game I blah blah blah. I think I'd only played it for like 30 minutes and then stopped, and then a year later picked it up again and was like, oh, this game's great. Um, that being said, there are some brilliant puzzles in this game that I certainly don't have the patience for. Where this game is brilliant though, because yeah, as you find this instruction manual and like there's more pages, it's just like which a lot of the pages are in this text which you can't read, like it's the language of the game in game world, I guess. but like through iconography, you can kind of gleam like, oh, okay, or it's like you kind of solve what it's saying. And as you do this, though, there's stuff in like controls. If you hold A, you can do this prayer thing, which accomplishes this. And it's just like, are you telling me there's so many things in this game that exist when the game starts, but you don't learn about them until you find the pages in the instruction manual. And it's just like, this ability, I've had this the entire time, but didn't know. So theoretically, when you start like a second playthrough, you can just do things right away that you didn't know were available right away the first time. Likewise, like because of the angle, like it's in a top-down three-quarters angle, so there's a lot of places in the game where like if you just happen to go behind a wall, it'll lead to a shortcut, which is always there. Which is always there. But sometimes like you'll discover it because as you progress through the game, you'll walk through a door and realize, oh, this is the back entrance to a shortcut, which was always there, but hidden out of view. The game's brilliant. But yes, like I say, some of the puzzles in the game are like, um, you'll go to a place and realize, um, like the flowers on the ground, which you wouldn't think to look at if you didn't like if you just like, oh yeah, there's flowers on the ground. What a beautiful game this is. But then after a while you realize, oh no, that's a puzzle that they're not really telling you about until you realize you've solved a bunch of other puzzles like it. Where like the flowers on the ground indicate, like if you just stand there and press like, okay, this flower's here. There's one up to it. There's one right. There's one down, left, up, right, up, left, and they form a path. Or if you just stand there and press those arrow keys, it unlocks a treasure. Yay! But yes, there's some puzzles in this game which are so deep where it's just like I doubt. Like I'm sure there's like 5% of the people playing the game were just like, yes, I love this. I want to solve this, and I will. But I'm sure 95% are just like, what's the solution, Google? And oh, here it is. And I'm saying, I'm admitting that like no, I'm content with just appreciating that the puzzles were there and hidden, and I could have solved them if I really wanted to, but no, they're crazy. If thankfully it's just like these are extra stuff that you didn't have to accomplish to beat the game, but and it's amazing that they're there hidden in plain sight, but no, I have they're there for someone very special who I'm sure loved it. um Nonetheless, great game. Difficult at times, um but then yes, once again it's a matter of just like, well, if you go online and look at a video, there's things you can do where it's just like the solution, or not even the solution, but like a tricky fix was right there, staring you in the face the entire time. Um, a very lovingly crafted game, I'm sure. Did I write down? No. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm caught in the middle of games I started and then resumed playing. Arcade Paradise, great. Like I appreciate that at some point you could like just ignore the laundromat part and just focus on playing games. This was a game that I was just like, you know what? What do I want to play right now? I don't know. Boom, pop up Arcade Paradise where you have variety of games and daily missions that incentivize you to play this game instead of this game, if you want to, or if you really just want to play this one game or like go towards this achievement, you could. And yeah, by the end, there were certainly some games with achievements which were very challenging but satisfyingly challenging, um, including this like one game where you had like you have a square and like there was this line bouncing around randomly. I don't know how random it was, and like you had to control a thing which could draw shapes, and you had to essentially box in this bouncing line, and box in a certain percentage of the area of the map without dying, which was a similar to a game I played on the family computer in the early 90s, where instead of a line dancing around, it was a ball bouncing around, not randomly, but very logically. And that was a game I loved as a kid, but like never saw that experience again in a game until Arcade Paradise. Kerry, go faster. You're missing the point. Okay. Let's see. Arcade Paradise, Vampire Survivors, which Brotato I think has eclipsed, but is a good example of a game that you play to make sure you get an achievement a day. Disney Dreamlight Valley, I should be done with it, but there were at least 2 achievements left. One I still have left, but one I at least accomplished this year, where you have to clear out. If you look at the image here, there's like, sorry, this is where my mouse should be. These deadly vines which pop up, and the last achievement I have left in this game is like clear out 3,000 of these vines, and then according to guides online, only 7 appear a day, meaning inevitably I could be able, but that's 7 appear per day that you log into the game. So sometimes I'll just log in, load the game, quit, just so the 7 appear, and then at the end of the week I'll go in and be like, get 50. I think I need like 1,200 more, and then I'll be like, done. Meanwhile, this game just constantly updates, and in this year alone, I think has added Mike and Sully from Monsters Inc. as neighbors, Jack Skellington, and I think his bride or his paramour. I haven't unlocked her yet, and Timon and Pumbaa, and probably many more who I forgot because I can't keep track of time. So this game keeps going. In addition to paid DLC, which I'm not gonna touch. Once I get this last Vine thing, I'll uninstall and be done with it. Dead Cells. This was a game I started some years ago, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I can see, like, yeah, I certainly played this after Hades, Slay the Spire, Monster Train, probably maybe before Rogue Legacy. But yeah, this was a game where I could appreciate, like, yes, my habit with roguelikes and roguelites is sometimes, like, if they're compelling, like, I will play through a session, lose or win, and be like, okay, that was enough for a day, switch to something else. Dead Cells, similar thing. I didn't get far. I was annoyed all the time because, like, by the time I started this game, 4 or 5 DLCs had come out, and sometimes you'd be traveling through these, I believe, randomly generated procedurally dungeons, and it'd be like, hey, here's an exit. Oh, but you don't have the DLC, so you can't actually use this exit. And it's just like, could you just have not generated that exit then? It was annoying. But I think at some point this year, it's just like, you know what? There's a DLC bundle, and I'm like, you know what? I really appreciated what this game was doing. I'll go ahead and buy all the DLC, not all the DLC, because they recently put out sometime this year, I think, a Castlevania DLC, which I'm like, okay, that's still full price, or not as discounted as I'd like. I'll buy all the rest of the DLC. Got back into this game, played it a bunch of times, experimented with different things, because this game, there's so many ways you can play through it. And I managed to find one where I was able to beat it once. Yeah, I don't think I had maybe 2 runs. And of course, if you beat it once, you unlock the next difficulty. And I was compelled to be like, well, there's no sense in me lowering or going back, because in order to, once I beat the next, I'll unlock the next. This game's wild, man. In terms of difficulty, like, I think I prefer a game that goes, you know what, this is the intended difficulty, this is how you're supposed to play it. Because all the advice I'm reading online is like, no, don't just try to find the best weapon and be good with it, find it, and try to beat the game with this one weapon. No, they want, all the advice I read online is like, no, try every weapon, unlock everything. However, my roguelike brain is thinking like, well, sometimes though in games, if you unlock everything, it makes the good stuff harder to come across. So no. And then people online be like, yeah, but in the game you have the options to turn off the stuff you don't, the less desirable weapons that you don't like. And it gets into this whole debate I have in my mind about like, well, no, I don't want to do that. If I don't want to use in-game cheats. And then it gets into this philosophical debate about, with myself, I should say, where it's just like, imagine you're playing an RPG. Sea of Stars is an example where there are menus in the game where like you can turn on the option of after every battle you regain all hit points and mana points. And it's kind of like, okay, that is an accessibility option to make the game easier. But I don't think that's the intended, like the default or the intended difficulty of the game. So I keep that off. But then it's like, imagine if you found a piece of equipment in the game, right? Like you beat a boss or found it in a dungeon that did the exact same thing, or like healed you at the end of every battle, or it healed you some amount. Now, what's the difference between equipping that armor or turning on the option? I don't know. I'm glazing over a deep discussion because now it's not the time. So yeah, Dead Cells, bought some DLC, kept playing, but like keep playing through Game Pass this year. It's a very rich game, very rich, so rich. It almost seems to me like I regret not playing it from the get go, and then enjoying as much more things were unlocked over time. Because now it's just like I'm playing years later and being overwhelmed by like there's so many choices you can make, so many strategies you can undertake. I think I might just have to be like, no, no, take advantage of the accessibility options that are there. This is like, I hate that. I don't want to. And Mass Effect Legendary Edition is still on Game Pass. Although I think I've seen it on sale recently for like $8. So I should just buy it out of respect. Um, although, yeah, I've noticed that, like, oh, it's still there. But I think I only played it on November 7th. And anyone who knows, who is in the know, why? Anyone who knows or is in the know knows why I played it on November 7th. And seemingly only on that day this year. But it's still there. It's a good game. So yeah, to summarize my point, it may have taken 22 minutes by accident. In addition to all the new games I played on Game Pass, there are 8 that I continue to play from previous years. Back to the list of new games I played. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. So I think, did Microsoft... Hold on. Did I make this up? Did Microsoft acquire Activision Blizzard? Yes, in 2022. And now we're seeing the benefits in Game Pass. I've never played a Crash Bandicoot game. And I've seen this guy as a mascot in various commercials. I think otherwise, previously I've only got the most experience watching like YouTube shorts of like people reading Reddit posts over, and then the background footage is Crash Bandicoot. And I think I should have known or seen that like, oh, these games are hard platformers, and that's why they show them in the background. So yeah, I've never played Crash Bandicoot game. Oh wow, what an opportunity that Game Pass has granted to me. Now I can play 3 of them. The first one's hard. And I don't know if the difficulty maintains. I've heard people say that 2 and 3 are relatively easier, but yeah, I don't know if it's just a matter of what I can imagine. Like, okay, Super Mario 64 is a game like I could probably play. Well, this doesn't mean anything. Play inside and out. What does that mean? Where she's like, I can boot it up and beat it in one sitting, easy peasy. I could probably recite the 120 stars if I really sat down and wanted to. 120 or 121? I forget. So I'm sure there are some people who can sit down and they played Crash Bandicoot when they were younger, and now it's in their DNA, it's in their blood. They can sit down and be like, yeah, I can beat every level on my first try. Why couldn't I? But for me, it's just like, I don't know if it's just a matter of like the control is clunky deliberately or maybe not, but it's just not in my DNA, and I'm certain as I play through it, we're like, you're bad, and it's just like I just wasn't raised on this, or I'm wrong, and it's just a hard, un, either intentionally or unintentionally hard game. I'm hoping the next two in the trilogy are easy. It's possible I might not beat the first one and never play 2 and 3, or maybe I will give up and try 2 and 3 someday. I don't know. In the category of games not on Game Pass, but Game Pass grants me the games that I unlocked with Games with Gold, is Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time, which I believe I first saw at a PAX, and has been a game for years. I've been like, yeah, it's there. It was free. I should play it sometime. And at PAX Kerry this year, I booted it up, and Clinton and I were there first. Maybe if I want a third player did join us eventually. I can't remember if it was Antonia and or Harrison. Um, but yeah, what a great game! It's which I don't know if you have like. I think maybe if you play it single player, bots join you. No, I don't know if this is. But yeah, point is, Clinton and I were in charge of controlling a spaceship, flying through areas, rescuing cute animals. Um, but like the spaceship control, like in your spaceship, which is multiple rooms sanctioned off by walls and ladders. Um, maybe the spaceship steering controls are here, and the controls for weapon on the left side of the ship are here, and right side are here, and shield controls over here. So you're constantly navigating and like coordinating amongst. So yeah, it's controlling a spaceship in the vein of Overcooked, essentially. But yeah, we managed to navigate the situation fine enough. But yeah, we had this one boss where we had to do multiple things and constantly move around. It is hectic, but we enjoyed ourselves. I hope we get to play this again. Or I will see about playing it myself, but I think that might cheapen the experience. Riders Republic was added to Game Pass, and I think I played it as soon as it was added, but it has been out for multiple years. Um, and yeah, I looked at it. I watched the trailer. I looked at it. I was like, this game looks exciting and fun. But I think I played it for a few days and then lost the appeal and uninstalled it. It's essentially an open world extreme sports game where when you go through the open world, it's like, oh, if you go here, you can start playing this race here for various reasons. And when it is an MMO, I'd say, where like if you're exploring the open world, you can kind of see other players traveling on different extreme sports vehicles. And then as you join several of the races, it'll be like, oh yeah, and here multiple other players are also playing. But I don't know if it's really. I think in some events, which are coordinated, like, oh, every half hour, here's a big race where you are racing against other people. I think most of the events you're playing against the ghosts of other players. Not to say they're dead, but like the recording of their performance. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Like I remember Burnout Paradise. Like the Burnout series was great because you got to crash cars and stuff. And most of the events were about crashing and less to do about racing. But sometimes you do a race where if you crash into other cars, it benefits your racing ability. But when it got to Burnout Paradise, that kind of ruined and I don't think there's been a Burnout game since. I think they're like they reached too far to the sun and then burned themselves and like, yeah, we're done with Fallout now. Or Burnout now. My hand burns. I don't know why I said Fallout. Burnout. Similar thing here where I don't know. It seemed good on interesting and exciting, but it's kind of like I don't know. I think maybe if they just made it smaller and just made it like, oh yeah, sorry, Burnout Paradise. I got burned out on, haha, because you would do a race and be like, okay, drive to this actual street or this intersection that exists on a world map somewhere, and then okay, that's where the event starts. And you do the event, and let's say it's like, oh well, I'm losing this race, I want to quit. So you quit, and then you're in the world again, and you have to navigate back to that intersection to start the race again. That was stupid. But there's some fun to be had exploring the open world and finding like billboards to smash. So similar thing here in Riders Republic, where it's like it's neat and exciting and dynamic that you're racing game in a tangible world that exists, but maybe you're just better off making exciting races, you know. And then yeah, it was kind of annoying because sometimes it'd be like, yeah, downhill bike racing, that's cool. Do I focus on doing that or should I switch to snowboarding? And what kind of snowboarding and skiing? And like I think there was skateboarding, but you had to buy the DLC to really advance in that. It's like whoa. I gave up. After how long did I write down? For 7 hours. Oh, I wrote down here. The game had been out for 3 years before being added to Game Pass. So at least the benefit of Game Pass is like, oh, suddenly a bunch of people are gonna play this multiplayer game. But for how long is the question, and I don't care to find out. Here's another contender for my game of the year, Inscription. And also similar to Balatro, which was nominated for Game of the Year, which was made by a Canadian, Inscription seemingly was also made by a local Canadian, a local Canadian. And part of the thing, I watched this video. Something Stanley Park. Just saying. So there's a reference in the game that happened to a thing where people went online, and in order to find a clue online, and one of the clues was literally, legitimately, physically buried in Stanley Park, which makes sense if the person's local. Anywho, here's a game which I thought I'd never heard of before. It turned out by the time I was done, I saw Curtis had mentioned it in a post of one of the best games he beat in a given year. So having read that post, seemingly I have heard of this game. I just forgot completely. I thought I never heard of this game. And then there was I thought, I'm forgetting the word for clickbaity, fantastical, that's not the right word, headline that said one of the best games of 2022, 2021, 2020, whenever this game came out, being added to Game Pass. I'm like, that's fantastical. Surely you're exaggerating. What are you talking about? Like, that's odd for a game I've never heard of. And I started, doing my due diligence of being like, should I start playing this game? What do reviewers say? And like, yeah, I was getting a few mentions of like, no, you're better off going into this game blind. We recommend this game. We're not gonna say why. Just play it. And yeah. So that being said, I will say, if you don't like deck building roguelike games, this might not be your cup of tea, and playing it won't change your mind on that. even though as far as deck building games go, like certainly other games, there's greater variety, I'll say, in the decks you build and the strategies you're building towards. Although, yes, this is still very strategic, but it's also minimal. But like you got to be careful. It's not one where adding a bunch of cards to your deck is gonna be a great strategy. It's like very decide what you want to build around and focus if you want to, do well in this game. So it's not as many cards, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Um, Point is, if you do like deck building games or card or games where you card based, that's all I'm gonna. Then yeah, I'm gonna give this a recommend and leave it at that. And I realized while playing it and like getting excited about it, I don't know how many games I play where when I'm not playing the game, I'm thinking about the game and I'm excited to discover what happens next. I realized while playing this game, or like while in the month that it took me to complete it, that um it's been a while since I've played a game where I'm excited to know what happens next. This game did that for me, and I can't think of the last time. Like maybe Mass Effect, right? Um, and that's all I'm gonna say. And you should thank me for it. But yeah, in certain, probably definitely top 3 to 5 games of the year for me. Which I started October 13th, which may have been a Friday. I also on the same day um, downloaded and I think started playing Persona 5 Tactica, which I've never played a Persona game before, and I probably should because I hit the rave reviews, and Metaphor Rifantasio. That's not the name. It might be the name. Was nominated for Game of the Year this year, despite it's Persona adjacent. I decided Tactica because I like tactics games, but seemingly I started playing October 13th. It was removed from Game Pass November 15th. I didn't play far enough to get any achievements because Inscription distracted me away from it. So I'm relieved that I didn't get as far or very far. Yeah, Inscription is great. Kind of spooky, but like the kind of spooky I can tolerate. And I am afraid to play Alan Wake. Let's see. In November, so yeah, I didn't start anything new for a month. Donut County, which falls under the category of games I know I'll be able to beat and should help my achievement addiction. It's kind of feels like a reverse Katamari Damacy, where instead of having a ball that you roll up things and the ball gets bigger, you control these holes, which you slide around the ground and anything that falls into the hole makes the hole get bigger, bigger. Annapurna Interactive is behind it, which is usually over the years, especially because of Game Pass. I don't think I'd buy any of these games, but any games by Annapurna Interactive are usually neat and out there and experiences I wouldn't buy, but I appreciate that I play. I can't think of any other examples except for what's the name of the game? Oop, wrong tab. Like what lurks where Edith lives. That's not what the game is called. What lurks Edith lives. What remains of Edith Finch? Which features which was a game that I'll say, well, it was certainly out there, but like it had this one mechanic which I thought was brilliant, where like you're on a swing set And I've just never seen that in a video game before, and it was great. So actually, Donut County, I can't. I played for 30 minutes. Seems fine. Prior to Spyro Reignited Trilogy being added to Game Pass, I think I've only played Spyro for like 10 minutes. And I think, this is kind of a juvenile opinion at the time. I found myself being like, why do people think that Nintendo is so kiddie? I played Spyro, and all the bad guys were running away from me. That's ridiculous. I've since matured and am now sophisticated in my opinions. Um, yeah, these are fun. They're very collectathon, like rare games of old. At first I felt like, oh yeah, but they're there, but you're not really guilted into collecting everything. But then when I beat the first game, I'm like, oh nope, there is a thing at the end that does require you to go back, or won't you can't play the super bonus level at the end until you've unlocked or got all the crystals in every level. But going back and replaying the levels is actually not too bad. Finding all the collectibles. I certainly, as I was playing them, didn't avoid collectibles. I didn't go out of my way to collect things. Um, and yeah, first game was great. I beat it. Will go back and collect 100% when I need those achievements. But yeah, this was certainly for me a better game than the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, or at least I'm having way more fun. At least I'm playing and enjoying beating the game. Um, the controls are like, yeah, there's some cases where it's just like, oh, this should be a little more fluid, but certainly is more controllable than Crash Bandicoot, and I appreciate it. And so this is November. Seemingly, I haven't started any new Game Pass games in December, mostly because of the True Achievements 12 Days of Achievements challenge, where they challenge you to get specific types of achievements. And out of all the games I've played so far, so I haven't started anything new. Broforce is available on Game Pass, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You got to be careful, but I wouldn't say the challenges so far at least are dangerous and daunting or um, brutal. uh, if but yeah, the game, all the jokes are it's a one note joke for all the characters you meet and unlock, which is satisfying. Essentially, as you're traveling through levels, you see people trapped in cages, and if you save enough of them, you unlock new characters, which are all very masculine, uh, mostly gun-toting uh, male heroes from protagonists from all the action movies, but they force in the word bro in each of their names. um, the Bromander, the Brominator, etc., etc. Uh, Dirty Brory, maybe. And the other characters, they were randomly selected every time you play and die and start a new life. Have kind of different abilities. And yeah, essentially all you're trying to do is explore through, foreign territories, trying to take down an evil dictator who is the devil every level, however that works. Um, and yeah, it's just silly, goofy fun. If you don't like the bro joke, then you're not gonna like this game. But yeah, I like it. It's a good game to just play when I am trying to kill time. Um, and it's just silly and violent and fun. So yeah, that concludes or all the new games that I played this year, started this year, which were available on Game Pass. Um, and if you weren't counting, Oh yeah, the one other note I put here. So on November 20th, an update came out. There's a new feature for, you know what, I assumed until right now it's Game Pass, but it might be available for other tiers of Xbox. No, it's for Xbox subscription, but I might be wrong. It might just be Game Pass. An update came out. So all these games, which are available on Game Pass, you can play them on the Xbox. I've also have an app on my phone, so I can play them on my phone. And I did buy last year, maybe 2 years ago, a controller attachment. A lot of them you can play touchscreen, but like, why? I can't imagine playing Fallout 76 with touch controls and then your thumbs blocking most of the screen, but you can. Um, an update came out, so in addition to all these games you can play on the cloud, which allows you to play on your phone, they added 50 or so games that aren't on Game Pass, but if you own them, you can and have a Game Pass subscription, you can play them on other places, including your phone, or now anywhere that has browser. You go to like xbox.com/play and you can play on the browser Game Pass games. I'm not sure about all of them, but so far most of the ones I've wanted to, and like these 50 games, including Balatro, Baldur's Gate, Cyberpunk. I don't know what else. Those are the ones that caught my attention that I own. Meaning, I didn't have to buy Balatro on mobile. Other people have, and I don't blame them. But now I can play it on the go. Yay! Baldur's Gate. Well, I can see wanting to play it like on a laptop or a PC. But like that's a sit down and focus on gaming game for sure. So that's great. But yeah, aside from that, new games I've played courtesy of Game Pass this year. 23 new games. 20 of which were worthwhile. 3 of which I probably shouldn't have started. And then 8 games I continued to play from previous years. All at the price of nothing. For me, at least. I did write down here. Yeah, so the thing is, yeah, in December 2020, I paid $1. So up until that point, I was paying, well, I don't know, because I was paying an annual amount for my gold subscription to Xbox. Maybe it was $60 a year, if that, maybe less. But then the 2020, I'm like, you know what? Let's try this Game Pass thing. And there was a promotion. Pay $1, you get 3 months, and they translated all my gold subscription. If I had, yeah, whatever was left over, this translated it to Game Pass Ultimate, I should say. Um, and then through Microsoft Rewards, and you get bonus points for searching on Bing, for earning an achievement every day, other miscellaneous challenges. But I get points all the time from doing my dailies, which takes no longer than that. I want 10 minutes a day. It feels like whatever I do. I just do Bing searches while I'm watching TV or you know watching YouTube videos, whatever. Um, I'm not really going out of my way to do these challenges, which gets me more points. And then every time I get 15,000 points, I trade them towards 3 months gold subscription, which then they just translate to Game Pass, the equivalent. Point is, and then so it takes me about, okay, right now I have enough Game Pass subscription. It expires July 18, 2027. Just from doing Bing searches and doing, these Game Pass rewards challenges. Meaning that, I paid $1 in 2020 for so far 6.5 years worth of Game Pass subscription. $1. Um, which is why I'm saying this is essentially free. And yeah, just double checking. I've been able to trade in 15,000 points 12 times this year. It looks like I recorded December 16, January, February, January 11, Feb 4, March 1, March 29. So about once a month, I get enough Game Pass. Well, For most of the years, it would add 54 days to my subscription. So like once a month, I get another 52 or 54 days added to my subscription, which is why I'm saying it's free. Like if I keep going, it'll never end. But over time, this year, last year I mentioned, yes, they've gotten less and less rewards. They took away the rewards app. You still get points for buying games, which I don't know what the exchange is. Um, but yeah, I noticed on October 15th, when I traded in my 15,000 points, I only got 38 days worth of Ultimate. But that's still more than a month's worth. And, I was looking at my Bing app on my phone today and noticed, oh, usually I can get 120 points a day doing the specific search. Sorry, 210. Now it's only 195. So, oh no, no. So over time, it may reach a point where gonna have to start paying for this. But that's still at least 2 years coming. Someday I might realize, oh, I'm not making enough points per day on average to that it's worth the equivalent of one more day of Game Pass. But at this point, like we haven't reached that point yet. Um, so best value, um, just an amazing value. Um, although that being said, it's like, but look at what I've played and be like, well, none of that seems appealing to me. The games you're playing aren't games I want to play. And sure enough, I still do buy video games, and let's see. Okay, almost 2 hours talking. Anyway, I certainly planned. Sorry, was there anything else I was gonna say about points? No, that was it. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna go over one more video explaining all the games that I did buy this year, and do a summary at the end which shows, if nothing else, the availability of so many games for free um, does make it so I'm less inclined to buy. When I do buy games, they're certainly not at full price. Like, why would I buy a full price game when there's so many games available for free? So games have become a commodity for me at this point, where it's just like, I can wait, I can wait, I can wait. And then, yeah, but I still do buy games, but certainly not at $60, certainly not at $90, with a couple exceptions, which I will get into the next time I make a video um, very soon, which will summarize all the games I've bought, well, this year or since last year's video. I hope you enjoyed me talking about the games I've played, and now you can ask me, hey, how was this game in greater detail? Hey, I didn't know you played that game. Thanks for telling me about this game or warning me about that. Or hey, you're wrong about Hollow Knight. You should play it more. I'm, yeah, for sure. But yeah, stay tuned for a summary of what I've paid to play this year. Um, and thank you for watching for as long as you are interested.